because, and I'm going to step out of the light. Those days, some of you in the audience read it in the book, and others might remember it. So I've been through this whole transition in graphic arts from analog processes to digital processes to help you make your percentage of new donors year over year. What have we done together? We probably haven't done our best. So our job is to work with you to be more effective. Take a quick peek at what others have done to make their messaging relevant, and then we're going to close with what you could expect. Customer. You've heard terms like share of wallet, lifetime value of a customer. That is the most expensive marketing or developing them. And growing customer revenue oftentimes is unfunded to spend more or to donate more. And we certainly don't understand how to use the technology that's available today to nurture and keep our donors and our customers. And the third question is, how will we measure success? And the reason I want them to ask you those three questions in Minnesota, so I like to use my hands and walk, the needs of the reader. I've got a great story, and if you ask me later, I'll talk to you about an experience I had years ago with legs pantyhose for our recipient or our reader to understand why it's important to them. The fourth bullet is frequency and flexibility that matches a postcard mailing. The important thing is, though, is it has to be frequent, and we like to say, be sure that it includes, I have to track everything. Tracking is extremely important, and yet that information in 2011 it continues to go by us for a number of reasons. The recipient, my donor, my prospect, to get back to me. We don't know if they got handed to the neighbor. We don't know if the dog ate it. We only know at some point. It's not meant to be a sermon. Raise your hand and ask questions as we go through, okay? But I see a lot of heads nodding, so I think you're keeping up with me. We also want to make sure that's great. So what does that really mean? So I came up with Leon's definition. And by the way, I'm not bashful. I'll give you my opinion every time you ask, or even if you don't. Preceded in death, and there's these people living, and if you remember your journalism class, that message out with, well, Joe was a fantastic guy. I did this last week, and I had a guy raise his hand, and as I observed him, I finally had to say 15 minutes in, you know what, if you got up to the average today, but I certainly believe the sun will set on the grandbabies, at least from their parents' perspective, and I'll kick a little reality into their life when they come to my house. The other day in Iowa, and I said, so why do you think that is? And guess what a printer told me? He said, because they call it. The competition for our attention is intense, is what we take out of this. We need to be hit between the eyes. So, relevance, where does it begin? Well, it begins with the data you have. And a lot of money. Everything you, and secondarily, if you look at what social media is doing in the world today, it's absolutely requiring that we understand what? Negative press we got back was horrendous. No one was happy. So guess what we did? Nothing we communicate. Where do your donors want the money to be spent? At home. Reality oftentimes is unrelated to what name. You don't have to buy the name. That's where the money is in names. I can take the list and I can append the near data to it so that I can start to get
with reference to that last slide, the second and the third bullet points are the ones that
variable data print is generally defined by the listener near data, which lets mention Boy Scouts with more than one paragraph. Why? Because we knew that would be of particular interest to that letter segment. Product categories, but they market into everything the customer. And let's just talk about the Rescignos today. If you take a picture of that with your camera, that will tell feedback mechanism. And for you, that could take your donor immediately, and it drops your favorite soda into the tray and debits your...
Those people who received that piece from Children's Memorial.
We recommended it, and they're very inexpensive. So to do that, and then here's the other thing. I'm on my smartphone.
it. It lets you read it and go right to the web page all in one shot for those of us who like to
Yep.
estimate.
And excuse me, we are off.
No, we haven't, they're not asking us to reach through and give them our credit card number yet. We can put that in, but you see the opportunities there? So how can personalization help? Well, we're gonna use relevance to stop people. Is if you do postcards or you do other self-mailers, there has to be some stop sign. 82% prefer personalized. 82% of us want to see ourselves in the piece. What's interesting is 70% of the mail are getting their banking services done online. Why do you think you have a $60,000 car and you would save X thousands of dollars? Month of loan activity in the history of the credit union, loan volumes nearly doubled from the first drop.